Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cigar Store Idiots. I am Rob, and I have with me my good friend, Law Enforcement Officer Jamz Manning. James, how is life treating you today, my friend?
Man, it's good. Just like last time, I worked all night last night and took about a 2-hour nap, and I get to come hang out with you.
Good deal. I see you drinking this gnarly Rockstar Cotton Candy flavored extra endurance.
It's supposed to have 300 milligrams of caffeine. I don't think it does.
I'm thinking that the only extra that thing's got, it makes my kidney stones extra big.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's not that great. And then, when you first drink it and it's like really cold, it's okay.
Yeah.
But then as it starts to get a little warm,
oh yeah, there's some of those energy drinks out there that if they start getting warm, oh yeah, it's like syrup.
Well, so I go by the mentality of if it's free, it's for me.
Yeah.
And so a buddy of mine gave it to me. I usually drink like the Bang, what is that one? Peach Mango.
Oh, how's that?
Dude, I love that one. That's like my favorite one.
I'd give that one a shot.
And then the Rain, they have they're like a Melon Mania or something. It's really good. I like that too. I kind of fluctuate between Bang and Rains because it's like one day Bangs will get me there, and next day I gotta have a Rain. Who knows? So
that's I wonder what your kidneys look like.
Dude, I don't know. I drink a ton of water. So
that's good. Yeah. That's good. That's the key. So. And I like that. If it's free, it's for me.
Yeah.
I live by that too, unless people are trying to give me a bologna sandwich.
I don't know.
I'm off that.
Yeah. Depends on how long that bologna's been sitting outside.
What did they make that out of?
Yeah. How long's it been there?
Look, I remember when I was a kid, we'd go to these mom and pop gas stations or convenience stores. Do you remember when they would sell like
dude, you got like
cheese?
Yeah. I grew up on that stuff. There was a little, where Foster's Mill Store is?
Yes.
Dude, I grew up down there. My daddy was the pastor of the church, like right by it. And so, I lived in that store.
Yeah.
And it's hoop cheese and cheese bologna.
Yeah, it's like
and crackers.
So my cheese be sweating like that.
How long's that been out here?
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed the flies won't even get on it.
No, but, it's already molded.
It tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. Our kids not really subjected them to the odd things that I ate as a child. Like I used to love, and this is so gross now I think about it, and I'd probably still eat it right now if I had some. Is biting the sausages, man, and crackers.
Heck yeah.
Man, I come home from school, get crack open a can of those bad boys and a Coke. And
there's been a lot of times we would be helping like bale hay or working or hunting or whatever, and a can of Vienna sausages, some hoop cheese, and some crackers, and you was good, man. And RC Cola.
I could never eat deviled ham. And I could never eat sardines.
No.
Never.
Never.
And I used to know an elderly gentleman that was friends with my grandfather. And I used to watch that joker eat sardines out of a can.
Gosh.
And that face you made, that's what I did. I was
like,
dude, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Thank you.
Like I said, we need to hire a monkey to mash the buttons on the soundboard. I got a puking sound, but I can't find it fast enough. So, but I can't find this one fast. And let's go ahead and step on into everybody's favorite segment, sponsored by these guys. And that brings us to another segment of What the Florida? What the Florida. A Florida man has been charged with grand theft and burglary for stealing a naked Donald Trump statue on September the 22nd. Got a lot to say there. Pedro Rodriguez, 36, was accused of taking the statue from a roof at the Wynwood neighborhood of Miami. A witness reportedly saw Rodriguez drop the statue, one of 5 made by Cleveland artists, into the back of his pickup before making off with it. Eugene LeMay, president of the Manor Contemporary, which owns the statue, said the incident would be not undermined our determination to stand strong for what it represents and what we want to communicate. A profound statement against any forms of bigotry, racism, discrimination during this presidential election campaign. The naked Trump statues have been placed in New York, Seattle, and Los Angeles. 3 places that I could care less about visiting.
Very true. And and most of the time, when we do this segment, I usually have something to say, but dude, I just don't. One, I love President Trump, but why would you ever have a naked statue of him? You know?
Here's my thing.
Melanie, maybe, whatever.
These people have made this statue to stand up against racism, bigotry, and all this other blah 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 that's coming out. But it's okay to have a statue of a naked man in a neighborhood where small children are.
You know.
let's just bring it back around to something greater,
Oh, yeah.
a bigger problem.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Having a statue of the naked president?
You know, like I said, usually I try to have something to say, but I just kind of like, I'm honestly speechless for like one of the few times in my life. It never happens very often because I always got something to say, but
when I found that, I was like, I don't even really know how to attack this whole story, because usually our What the Florida stories are just the most asinine things you can find.
I remember the first one, you know, was the mobile dentist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's pretty funny.
Apparently there's a lot of home castration guys out there too that you can find them.
Wow.
On Craigslist, and they'll come castrate you for free, as long as they can keep your bits and pieces to eat later. Yeah, we did a podcast.
Are you? Wow.
That's for real. And there's more than one story of those.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's a thing, I guess. I don't know. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, what's the name of the business?
I don't know. I don't know.
Cut it up.
Snips and clips. I don't know. I don't know.
Sassy snip.
Snip your bits. Snipyourbits.com. So
Wow.
I don't know. It's crazy. So.
It makes me. I just like kind of cringe and squeak.
Yeah, it made my belly button hurt.
Yeah,
a little bit.
that's exactly right.
So yeah, don't steal naked Donald Trump statues out of neighborhoods, because that's wrong.
There you go.
How about we just not make statues of naked men and put them in neighborhoods that kids can look at?
I agree. I'm there.
I'm pretty sure that that's more offensive than
Yeah, I would think so.
that Donald Trump has tweeted.
Yeah.
So.
Right, yeah.
What's going on with you, man? How's life treating you?
Man, it's good. Like I said, I worked last night, so I'm off for a couple of days. Getting to hang out with you this morning, pick up my youngin at 1. Hopefully he's going to be really cool and let me take a nap. You know, I'll get about an hour nap maybe this afternoon while he watches TV. I did the other day. I picked him up and we went to my apartment, and he was watching the Woody the Woodpecker movie, which he loves.
Yeah, I think I've seen that about 15
Dude, I'm telling you.
times.
And so we're sitting there watching the movie, and I don't know, a couple minutes later, I'm like, hey, buddy. And he goes, and you know, he's 5, and he goes, hey, Daddy, have a good nap. I didn't go to sleep. He's like, yeah, you did. I said, you just started watching the movie. And I looked, and it was kind of near the end, and I was like, I said, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I had a snack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get that kid some buying sausage
Yeah.
and crackers.
Well, and last time it happened, you know, I knew I took a nap. I on purpose took a nap. And I woke up and I looked, and he's over there on my phone playing some deer hunting game, killing stuff. And I was like, all right, then, that's my boy. So,
I know. I saw the video that you had done this weekend. I showed it to Brittany, where you did Mission Impossible.
Oh, dude,
the
yeah.
hallway. Oh my God, that was great.
Dude, that is the best $6 I ever spent in my entire life.
We definitely. I was like, we got to get our girls to do this. They would have a ball.
I did it before, and it wasn't quite difficult enough.
Yeah.
And so Bennett, you know, she's 11, and she was like, Daddy, you know, this is kind of easy. And I was like, all right,
okay.
Dude. So, you know, I stepped it up this time. And then, you know, I had those disco lights left over from my birthday party like 3 days ago, or like 3 years ago, and I was like, let's see what this does.
Yeah.
And so they really enjoyed it, and I think they had almost as much fun turning it down as they did.
They did. It looked like they did.
But it was a lot of fun.
So if you guys out there, give you kind of a layout of what happened. So he went and bought some yarn, and he taped it, kind of like a crime scene.
Well, it's kind of like a.
But it's like a laser maze.
Yeah, it's like a laser maze, like, you know, you see on these. I guess the movie. Did you ever see that movie with Sean Connery, Entourage?
Yes.
Where Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Vividly.
So yeah, it's kind of like that. And so I have a hallway in my apartment, and so we just basically made like a laser maze in the hall.
Yeah.
And so the kids loved it.
And then the lights, you turn on these lights from like you said they were disco lights.
It's kind of like disco lights, yeah.
Dude, it was cool, man.
Yeah.
It was a good. I knew that. I had fun watching them.
Oh, I had a really good time setting it up.
Now,
and I enjoyed it.
if I would have been there to participate or actually set it up, you would find me in a corner. I'd look like a big giant ball of yarn tangled up in it. So.
Well, and that's why I made them take it down when I did, because I'm like, you know what, my bedroom's that way, and you know, I kind of need to get back there.
Heaven forbid you got to run out there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like over.
Web,
Yeah,
so.
pretty much, and about to kill myself. So, but it was a lot of fun, man. And you know, like I said, $6, dude, you can't beat it.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing it.
You can't do nothing else for $6 for
No.
3 hours for your
No,
kids.
God no.
Yep.
You might be onto a business there.
Hey, I'm telling you. You know, pay us to come in and set that stuff
We're
up.
gonna start talking about it now.
That's right. People here. Hey, you know, I'm poor little
Nobody's
police.
listening to this.
You know, I'm a
Let's be
poor little
honest.
police. I gotta do something to make some money.
Yeah, let's be honest. Nobody's listening.
There
to
you
this.
go. There you go.
No, they actually listen when you come on. So
man.
let's we kind of talk about sometimes situations that you see on the news and people get in a pickle with police,
Yeah.
whether they're not complying or whether they think they're smarter than the police and they try to go over the Constitution
Oh, yeah.
in a drunken stupor,
Yeah.
or whatever. But one thing that you and I talked about, and I wanted to hit on today, and you brought this to my attention. A lot of people, which you think this sounds so simple, so basic, so easy, why would somebody need to explain to me what I need to do when I get pulled over?
Yeah.
Well, apparently, a lot of people do not know what to do when they get pulled over.
I don't.
So let's keep the masses safe.
Yeah.
And kind of give them a checklist for dummies on what to do when you get pulled over by the police.
Well, you know, so you and I kind of like to relate it to what other people kind of understand, right? So you do roofs, right?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna look at a roof or do a roof or whatever, what do you think the 2 most dangerous parts of your job are?
Honestly, getting on the roof is super dangerous.
Okay, so and probably kind of like walking across that. Is it called a ridge line?
Yeah, the ridge.
That's what I always call it.
Yeah.
Walking across the ridge line is pretty dangerous, right?
Or what if they got a dog?
Yeah.
Don't like you.
Yeah.
Don't like strangers in their house.
Or you know, or then you know you got for me, because you know I helped out with some contractors, you know, when I was in high school and stuff. The thing that always scared me the worst was, and this is before they had the cool little machines, but you know you throw a square of shingles on your shoulder and climb up the ladder with one hand.
Yeah.
You know, so those are probably, to me, would probably be 2 of the most dangerous things in your job.
Yeah.
Right. So the 2 most dangerous things that a police officer does or goes to on a regular basis, more than, you know, like a LA shootout or something like that, but something that happens almost every day. First is domestic violence issues, right? You go to a domestic violence call, he done punched her in the face, her eyes black and blue, you know, you go to arrest him, and now she turns into a Hellcat that loves him more than anything, and now you're fighting them both.
Yeah.
You know, or...
And that happens a lot.
It does. Or,
what do
you know...
What the percentage on that is?
Man, I don't know.
Is it above 50%?
Nah, I don't think so.
That's good.
I'd probably say about 20.
Okay.
I've only I've only had it happen. Talking's fun once you learn how. Maybe 2 or 3 times in 9 years. So it's not that prevalent, but
it's a whole different level of what's going on.
Yeah, and it's a danger that you don't really expect, you know. And so that and traffic stops are the 2 most dangerous things. Traffic stops because you never know who's in that car. You don't know their mentality. You don't know what they have. You don't know
what they just did.
Yes, exactly right. And so you don't know. So if you're talking about your career, getting on a roof, climbing that ladder, you know, carrying stuff, those are the times you're probably going to be more vigilant, making sure you don't fall and break your neck. So it's the same thing. Sometimes people kind of go like, well, that cop was, you know, he was a jerk. He might have been a little short, might have been a little snappy, but what you have to understand is you don't know who that person is. And so if you'll watch a lot of these videos on YouTube or whatever,
because people love to put them videos on YouTube.
Yeah, and that's totally legal. There's no problem with that. And most officers are like, okay, cool. You know, if you're doing the right thing, body cams and videos are your friend.
Right.
But like with me personally, if I walk up to a vehicle, I may be a little more straightforward in the first of the traffic stop because I'm trying to be safe and vigilant. And then by the end of the traffic stop, I'm probably cracking jokes, you know, because I've kind of worked through all that and figured out who you were and kind of what's going on.
Kind of about where your situation is.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because every situation is different. There's no such thing as a routine traffic stop ever.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I looked up yesterday.
Despite what the media would allow you to.
Dude, so this is something I looked up last night because this was to me really eye-opening, and there's several more that I didn't even list. But it was serial killers that were caught on a traffic stop. and you would actually be amazed. Timothy McVeigh, from the Oklahoma City Oklahoma City, dude, that stuff's got me jacked up.
Yeah, dude. Well,
I can't even talk.
It's known that when you come in here and talk, my dumbness rubs off on people.
I don't know if it's that or if it's just, caffeine and an hour and a half nap.
That could be it too.
But, so 168 people died in that explosion, thousands or hundreds or whatever were hurt as well. They caught him because of a traffic stop. He didn't have a tag on his vehicle. They pulled him over, and that's how they caught him.
Yep.
Ted Bundy.
Yep, I was about to say Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, man, raped and murdered like 30-something people. Actually, he was in a courthouse representing himself, went to the law library, and escaped out of a window. He got pulled over, and that's how they caught him after he escaped. Then he got put in prison and escaped during around Christmas time. Again, they caught him because of a traffic stop.
Yeah.
So those kind of things pop up, and you don't ever know who you got or what's going on. There was one man I was trying to find out. Hold on 1 second. Oh, here it is. This guy's named Randy Kraft. I'd never heard of him before. They called him the Freeway Killer. He had killed 37. Most of them were hitchhikers. Picked them up on the highway in California and killed them. And he got caught because they did a traffic stop on him, and there was a guy in the front seat appeared to be asleep. And when they went to check on him, he was dead. He was propped up in the front seat. He was I believe he was a Marine, it said, but he was propped up in the front seat, dead, and that's how they caught him. They go to wake him up, and he's not waking up.
Yeah.
So it was kind of crazy to see that because, like I said, you never know what you're going to get. And people look at traffic stops as, it's just something normal, and it's not. It's never normal, man. And so when I'm training rookies, I tell them, this is one of the most dangerous things you're going to do because you don't know who's in that car. You don't know anything about them. You don't know if they got a gun. You don't know if they, if they've got warrants or if they don't have a license or whatever. So you never know, right? There's this other guy named William Suff. I'd never heard of him either. Killed somewhere between 18 to 22 hookers.
Wow.
He got caught because he made an illegal U-turn.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, we did, when we did a podcast the other day about these two guys who had kidnapped this guy's wife. He had his wife kidnapped, and I think he was going to have her killed. But once the kidnapping kind of fell through, he changed his story that he was going to rescue her to win her affection back.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
He was going to kill her. But what happened was the guys had kidnapped her and got in a white van, and they're taking off. Traffic's backed up, so they get in the emergency lane on the right-hand side, start hauling ass.
Yeah.
And a police officer sees that.
Yeah.
So immediately they pursue them.
Yeah.
And then they drove off into a canal.
Yeah.
And drowned. The lady survived.
Good.
But the two kidnappers drowned. So,
that's some karma and justice.
Yeah.
Right there.
There's a lot of not common sense in that story.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you're saying. You have no idea who you've got pulled over in front of you. You don't know the situation. Just look at the girl, the Gabby Patino.
Yeah, I hadn't really read a lot about that. I kind of picked up on some of it, just seeing people's Facebook posts.
I know that when the police they were pulled over.
Yeah.
Because they were in
a national forest or something like that.
They were fighting, and somebody saw that and called the police and pulled them over. But when they were following them, they didn't have really a reason to pull them over, just hearsay. And then he got off the road a little bit and hit the curb. Yeah. And then they lit him up, and then sure enough, but that just the officer that took that, and I watched that a couple times, just trying to analyze her the way she was acting, she was hysterical. Yeah. I know that guy, there's not going to be a day in the rest of his life that he wished that he didn't do something different, that he didn't see something or do something different.
And and that's the thing.
It's just hindsight. You just have no idea.
Yeah, man. And there's so many things going through your mind on that traffic stop. You're trying not to get hit by traffic because of course people see blue lights and they lose their mind. Yeah. They forget how to drive.
Yeah, they do.
Dude, I'm telling you, I had been hit, man. I had been almost hit by so many people, and so you're trying to process what's going on. You're trying to watch sometimes 3 and 4 people in the car. And so there's a lot to process and a lot to do. So if an officer's a little heightened, there's probably a good sign,
Sure.
right? But anyway, so a few things kind of what not to do. Well, let's do what to do first, right? So, most people, they're driving down the road, whatever, they see, officer get behind them. You ain't got the blue lights on, but the officer gets behind them, and you get that sinky feeling in your gut. It's like, oh crap, what did I do? What's going on? Whatever. And then the moment they light you up, a lot of people, they go from that sinky feeling of, oh crap, to why are they pulling me over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to go to work.
Go arrest a real criminal.
Yeah. Go bother some real people. And so their mentality changes really, really fast. Mm-hmm. And so as a police officer, when I walk up to a car, I'll go ahead and tell you, the way you treat me is really going to determine what I give you, right? Whether I give you a citation or whether I give you a warning. If people are respectful, and I'm like, let's say you ran a red light, and I pull you over, I'm like, look, hey man, the reason I pulled you over is you ran a red light. A couple of stupid things I've heard on traffic stops is, I've corrected my rookies on this, they walk up to the car and they identify themselves, I'm, officer so-and-so with so-and-so. Do you know why I pulled you over? That's just dumb. Why ask people, do you know why I pulled you over? Mm-hmm. They may not know. Then again, you're also kind of asking them to admit to a crime. So just don't do that nonsense.
You're giving them control of the situation when you ask questions.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so my whole thing is, hey, I'm Deputy Manning, Walker County Sheriff's Office. The reason I pulled you over is you blew right through that red light. Then I may ask them, is there any reason
going on?
Yeah, dude, because you don't know. Man, I've had every answer from, look, I'm just trying to get home. My kid's about to burn the house down. Or my kid. I had one lady one time. She's like, my 12-year-old son has his daddy's beard trimmers, and he's about to shave the cat. Literally, dude.
That's hilarious.
I've had guys that are sitting there squirming, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, dude, I got to poop. I got code brown going on. I gotta go home. Brown. Yeah. So, you never know what's going on. I've had people cry just because they're going through some stuff. And so you just don't know. And so when you approach that situation, the more respectful you are, the better it's going to go for you.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's common sense.
Yeah. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. If it's nighttime, turn your dome light on. Right. Don't start reaching and jerking for things. Mm-hmm. If you have a gun in the car,
tell them immediately.
Tell them immediately. Right. I will tell you, me personally, and I know several officers that are the same way. If I ask for your license and you give me your license and your concealed carry permit at the same time, me and you gonna be friends.
Yeah.
Unless you've done something really, really stupid, or unless you're DUI, then I'm probably gonna cut you a break.
Yeah.
I'm probably about, you know what? And I'll probably talk to you more about your gun than I do anything.
Right.
Because I like guns.
Yeah.
But being respectful, like I said, if there's a gun in the car, tell them, hey, there's a gun in my car. And talking about that, a lot of people don't understand. Your car is an extension of your home. Okay. So by law, if you're in your vehicle, you can have a gun in your vehicle without a permit. It can be loaded, it can be in the seat, it can be anywhere, right? You don't have to have a permit. If it's concealed on your person in your car, you have to have a permit. Okay. But if it's in your car, it's an extension of your home.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If it's in your car, it's an extension of your home, and as long as you are legally able to have a gun, that's the main thing. Right. You get convicted felons, like, wow, this it's like my home. Yeah, but you're still a convicted felon.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're supposed to have one.
Yeah, you're supposed to have one in the first place. Right? So, but if you're legally able to have a gun and it's in your car, you do not have to have a permit. But if you just, all you got to do is keep your hands on the steering wheel and say, officer, I just want to let you know there's a gun under my seat, there's a gun in my glove box, there's a gun in my console. It's going to take our tension level a lot lower, right? Because then that's one of the unknowns. Mm-hmm. Don't reach for it. Definitely don't go, it's over here in the seat, and reach, right?
You want this?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Not at all. Yeah. So it takes the tension level down a lot for us. And, like I said that about the concealed carry permit, if you give me that, to me, that number one shows me you're concerned about my safety. And people that do that, I don't usually have to worry about them trying to kill me.
No.
They're usually pretty good people. And so it just kind of works out in your favor. So a couple things to do: keep your hands on the steering wheel. Let me know if there's a gun in there. If your back windows are tinted, roll your windows down. Because if you don't, as I come up, I'm gonna be like, hey, can you roll this window down for me right quick? You know, I'm gonna look, you got kids in the back seat. All right, I ain't worried about that. You know, I ain't worried about Junior pulling out an Uzi out of his diaper.
Or a beard trimmer.
Yeah, or a beard trimmer. And so, yeah, just simple things like that, that it makes it safer for you and it makes it safer for us too. You know, an officer that pulls you over should identify himself. He should tell you why he pulled you over. And he's gonna ask for your driver's license. Some people ask for a license and insurance. I don't ask for insurance because a lot of people just carry it on their phone now.
Yeah.
And if they do have a card, it may be in the glove box, it may be in the console. Well, I don't want people digging for stuff because to me that just kind of amps things back up. I can get your insurance information off your tag.
Right.
As long as it's most states, it might be kind of weird getting it back from Alabama or Tennessee, but most everything in Georgia usually comes back on your tag.
Okay.
So that way I don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about your insurance card. I'm not carrying your phone back to my car, crap like that. So so I can get that off your tag. But I want your license. And by state law, you got to have your license. If you're driving a vehicle, you have to give it upon demand. And that's where the sovereign citizen thing comes in. They're like, oh, I'm not driving, I'm traveling. You're still driving this car, doesn't give you a license, right?
Oh man, I can't believe people try to pull that shit.
I do, yeah,
and
but I've never had that happen to me in this area. I think we've only had like a couple of sovereign citizens that our guys have dealt with. I've never had it happen, and so I'm kind of interested to see how all that goes. I will tell you, you know, don't be that jerk that rolls your window down like an inch.
Yeah.
I ain't gotta roll my window down. Well,
I ain't gotta tell you my name.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like state, you know, law, actually federal law. It comes from the Supreme Court says that you do have to identify yourself. Right? If you're driving a vehicle, you do have to give me identification, or you can go to jail. Right? It also passengers in the car have to provide identification. And the reason being because it's a safety issue, because again, you don't know who that person is. You don't know if they got warrants. I mean, there's been a lot of times that I run the passenger and they got warrants.
Or they got kilos in the trunk.
Dude,
traveling from here to there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like I said, a Georgia Supreme Court case, and I always have to look, it's State versus Allen. So it came from the Georgia Supreme Court in 2015. And basically it says that an officer can identify everybody in the car, right? They can identify all those subjects. And so if you're that person that rolls that window down an inch, you know, and want to be that way, that's fine. I'm gonna tell you to get out of the car, you know. And again, U.S. Supreme Court says that officers can do that. We can ask you to step out of the vehicle.
Right.
And if you don't want to comply, then okay, you can go to jail. That's your choice. And there's certain times that an officer may ask you to step out of the car. I remember when I was in training and I had FTO and we pulled over these guys on Short Avenue. And it was a pickup truck, like a little Red Ranger or something maybe. There was 3 guys in the front and 4 guys in the back, you know, in the bed of the truck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I pulled them over. I got on the intercom and I was like, driver, step back. And he looked at me, he's like, what? I said, look, dude, when I walk up beside that truck, there's 4 guys in the bed of that truck that can easily come out of that bed of that truck. And now I got to fight them all.
Yeah. Or hit me with something.
Yeah. I said, it's so much safer for me to have the driver step back to me. And that's not, as long as it's not normal occurrence, right? I can articulate why I'm doing that. It's a safety issue.
Sure.
And so, you know, officers can have you step out of a vehicle. You know, if you tell me, officer, there's a gun in my seat, okay, step on out of the car. Let's talk about this, because I'm gonna separate you from it.
Sure.
One thing I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna reach in your car, take your gun, unload it, all that other
Say,
stuff.
hand me that.
Yeah, not at all. Now, if you get out of the car and you're like, officer, I've got a gun on my person, right? I'll have you put your hands on the car or whatever. You're not under arrest, but I'm gonna take that gun out of your holster or whatever, and I'm gonna lay it back in your car, pull you away from that situation, then we'll have a talk, right? Honesty goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell me up front that there's a gun in the car or there's a gun on your person, then we're gonna get along a lot better than if for some reason something happens and I put my hand, you know, towards your pocket or pat you down for guns and I feel it. Now my anxiety level, yeah, dude, it's done shot up.
Yeah.
And so we had that happen the other night. We had a guy at a convenience store. It was supposedly a domestic guy and a girl fighting in the parking lot. We get there, the girl's gone, she's nowhere to be found. He's just kind of standing there. So we talked to him, kind of running through dispatch, and he's got a warrant. So put him in cuffs, waiting on the warrant to be confirmed. Anything in your pocket's gonna stick me, poke me, blow up. I mean, that's what I always ask. You know, any guns, knives, bazookas. You know, nope, not at all. So I start patting him down, and all of a sudden I feel it in his pocket. And he's got a little 2-shot 32 Derringer. And I'm like, dude, really? Because now I've gone from calm and cool, we're gonna get along, to
I'm upset with you.
Yeah, I'm upset.
Yeah.
Because you know, I found a gun in your pocket, and number one, you're convicted felon, you're not supposed to have it. But number two, you just told me there's no weapons on you, and now I found them, and so it kind of aggravates.
Yeah.
So being honest, letting that officer know, hey, there's a gun in the car. If you're asked to step out of the car, step out of the car. The whole thing about any interaction with police is comply, comply, comply. If you don't like what happened, then you have the right to make a complaint. Everything's on video these days, man. And if an officer's doing the wrong thing and you complain, then it's gonna pop. You know, they're gonna see it. So if you feel like you've been wronged, file a complaint, right? If you get pulled over for speeding and you don't feel like you're speeding, fight it in court. The time not to fight it is on the side of the road, right?
Right.
That's just not the time.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you argue, it's not gonna work out for you.
Yeah, it's not gonna get better for your situation.
Another thing not to do, don't name drop. You know, when I walk up to your car, I'm the chief's neighbor, or I go to church
with so and so.
Yeah. This happened last night. This guy that I was training, he was my rookie, but just got out on his own. He pulls this. Well, we had an issue. We had a call about 2 cars racing. So he sees one that he thinks it is. He gets behind it, runs a tag, no insurance. So he lights it up. As he's walking up to the car, the lady's on the phone with her husband, ranting and raving. He tells her why he pulls her over. Because when we run a car, it'll show us that the registration is good and the insurance is good. And it was showing that the registration had been was invalid or something. I don't know if it was suspended or whatever, and no valid insurance. So she's on the phone with her husband, and so the sheriff up in Walker County, his name's Steve Wilson, super cool guy, very laid back. He's been there forever, great guy. Kind of like Tim Burkhalter was here. Yeah. You know, and she's on the phone with her husband screaming, call Steve, call Steve, call Steve. She's like, we're calling the sheriff. It's like, for what? You know?
Does he pay your insurance?
Yeah. Is
Did he forget to pay your insurance?
Yeah. And so, don't name drop. Yeah. You know, don't. Hey, is so and so working? That's my buddy. You know, that has nothing to do with why I pulled you over. Right. So don't go name dropping. We don't need the attitude. You know, because if you give us attitude, we're gonna give you attitude. Right. You know, just do what you're asked. You know, do what you're told. Comply. It's not an issue of somebody trying to make you subservient or whatever. It's we have business to take care of, and let's take care of the business and move along. You know, whether you agree with it or not, like I said, you got your time in court. I've never been one that wrote a bunch of tickets. Most of the time, if I pull over cars, I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for dope. I'm looking for people with dead bodies in the car and stuff like that. I'm looking for stuff like that. There are guys that they're traffic Nazis, man. They love writing tickets, and that's okay. That every department has to have.
If you're not breaking the law, you ain't getting pulled over.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it could be something very small, like a brake light out or something, and people get so amped up about it. They're like, well, why did you pull me over? I've still got one brake light left. Well, guess what, dude? If one of them's out, the other one ain't far behind it. Right. So now you're driving down the road with no brake lights, and some car comes hauling over a hill, and you're stopped, and they don't see you, and they smash in the back of you.
And everybody's dead.
Yeah, all because you got pissed off because the police officer pulled you over and told you had a brake light out.
Yeah.
And I'm not usually one to write that ticket. I usually just tell people, like, hey, look, man, you got a brake light out. And usually, like I said, and that's kind of how I approach it is, you got a brake light out. If one of them's out, the other one ain't far behind it.
Right.
You can go by AutoZone, they'll change that thing for you for free if you just buy a bulb. It's no big deal.
Right.
And so that's kind of.
I can even change out one of those bulbs. And, I'm mechanically.
Dude, I am. I'm like car stupid.
Yeah. My dad is a mechanic, diesel mechanic, has been for years. He can fix. His thing is I can fix anything with wheels on it.
Yeah.
I can fix a sandwich.
Yeah. I can break anything with wheels on it. Does that count?
Yeah.
So, always been one that, if I pull you over for, let's just say, running a stop sign, right, and you got a brake light out, and I walk up to you and I'm like, hey, look, here's the deal, man. I pulled you over because you ran that stop sign, but you got a brake light out too. If I feel like I need to make some sort of corrective action, whether it be write you a ticket or whatever, I'm probably gonna write you, as long as you're respectful, I'm gonna write you a ticket on the brake light.
Right.
Because it's a lot cheaper ticket. That stop sign ticket's about $98. That equipment violation ticket's like $25, $30, and it does not affect your license.
Right.
Whereas that stop sign ticket will.
And you're trying to save somebody's life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so I kind of approach it that way. I've only had one time in my career that didn't backfire. It's just somebody pitched a fit at me. I pulled a guy over one time. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and he didn't even slow down through the stop sign. And it was in a neighborhood or whatever. And so I pulled him over. He ran the stop sign. He had a brake light out, a tail light out. His tag was expired. His tire tread was low, and his driver's license was expired, and he had not changed his driver's license. He had been living at the same address for like 3 years, and it was a different address than what was on his driver's license. So basically, you had like 7 violations. And so I talked to him. I go back to my car, and I wrote him like the tag light ticket, which was like $20. And I go up to him, and I'm like, sir, here's the deal. We had 7 violations, right? I wrote you 1 ticket. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, heck, if I knew the police department needed that money that bad, I just wrote y'all a check for a donation. And I was like, you know what, sir, you're exactly right. I'll be right back with you.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. And I came back and I gave him 6 more tickets.
Good.
And he wanted to complain. He called my captain over there, and she comes over there, and she was like 5 foot nothing, mean as a rattlesnake. And she comes over there, and she's like, what's going on? He's like, I want to file a complaint. And she said, why? He said, we wrote me these tickets. She looked at me, she said, did he earn them? I said, yes, ma'am. You ain't got no complaint. Walked off. But
well, it's good that she had your back.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And that's rare sometimes. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. But so yeah, don't name drop, don't get attitude. Do not jump out of your car, and start walking back to the officer. Mm-hmm. That's gonna be bad.
It's a red flag.
Yes, it's a red flag. Doors start opening.
Because genuinely, anytime something like that happens, there's some shit about to go down.
Yeah, there's something in the car. If car doors open, we usually expect somebody to take off running. So we're already amped up. Mm-hmm. And then you jump out of the car and you pitch a fit. And actually, we had that happen a few years ago in Rome. One of the guys that I worked with, he pulled over this guy. The guy jumps out of the car and starts kind of charging toward the officer, going, don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? And he about got tased.
Yeah.
And what was so bad was he was a deputy from an agency in a different county close to us. And I ain't gonna put names out there.
No, yeah.
But somebody who should know better. And he about got tased because of that. Mm-hmm. And so, in that situation, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter who you know. That has nothing to do with why I pulled you over.
You of all people, like this guy, he of all people should know protocol.
Heck yeah, exactly right.
And how people get shot,
yeah,
and tased, during traffic stops.
Yeah, but honestly, police officers are usually the ones that act the worst. There's countless videos.
There's a bunch of those videos.
Yeah, there's countless videos of like, man, don't you know who I am? It doesn't matter.
No, but if you tell me, I'm going to make sure to write your name.
Yeah, make sure you get your name spelled correctly. Yeah. And when you sign the ticket, you make sure you sign it right.
Yeah.
Right? And that's another thing that people don't understand is you write them a ticket and they're like, well, I don't agree with this, I'm not signing the ticket. Okay. Step out of the car, you're under arrest. Because down at the bottom of the ticket, if you'll look, it says license displayed in lieu of bail. So every citation or every time that you're written a ticket or whatever, it's an arrestable offense. I can take you to jail for that. Mm-hmm. But there's an understanding that when you give me your license and you display your license, you're saying that you're going to either take care of the ticket before the court date or you're going to show up for court. If you don't, then they're going to issue a warrant for you for failure to appear, right? And you're going to go to jail. So basically when you sign the ticket, it's not saying you're guilty. And that's kind of the little line I put in there. I tell everybody, I give them their ticket. I said, look, I need you to sign right here at the X. It's not saying you're guilty. It's just saying I've explained your court date to you, and I gave you a copy of your citation. That's all it says.
Right.
And they're like, well, I don't want to sign the ticket. Well, okay, that's you have that right, but you're gonna need.
But guess what happens next?
Yeah, you're gonna go to jail. You're gonna have to post cash bond.
Matching bracelets.
Yeah, you're gonna go to jail. You got to post cash bond, and I'm gonna tow your car.
Then you got to pay to get that out.
Yeah, and so most people are like, oh, I didn't know that, you know. And you still have some that kind of get mouthy, but you know, it's not saying you're guilty. It's just saying that you're gonna show up for court, making that promise. Because if you don't, your license are gonna be suspended.
And you get arrested.
And you're gonna get arrested for not showing up to court.
Right.
So most people don't, you know, just understand that it's not saying you're guilty at all. It's just saying, hey, I promise to show up for court. You know, that's one of the things that we run into a lot. Like I said, people not wanting to roll down their windows or whatever. Passengers not thinking they have to identify themselves.
Yeah, because I didn't know that.
You do, yeah. It's you know, it's a law that came out of the Supreme Court in Georgia that an officer can identify everybody in the car.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, because like I said, you know, if a guy's got a warrant, would he be dumb enough to? Well, he would, but would it behoove him to be dumb enough to drive the car? Right?
Yeah.
Because you know that the driver's going to get his license ran.
Sure.
Right. So if I'm in the back seat, you know, hopefully
that's the best. Hey, you got a driver.
Yeah.
Your risk factor of going to jail is way down.
Yeah. So, you know, we usually always identify the people in the car. And so you just, you know, knowing those kind of little small things can help. Pulling in your driveway because you think it's a game of freeze tag and I'm on home base and you can't arrest me now, yeah, that don't work.
That is not true.
That don't work at all, right? And I've had people do that. You know, you blue light
I'm
them.
at home.
Yeah, you blue light them and they'll drive for 2 blocks and then they pull in their driveway and they get out and it's like, hey, they're like, what? I'm home.
So
I don't care.
you what?
At least your car.
2 blocks ago.
Yeah. At least your car is parked to where you ain't got to tow it now and deal with that paperwork.
Yeah.
But yeah, being at home on home base does not, you know, it does not negate the traffic stops. And I've got several people with DUIs like that. You know, they'll pull in a driveway like, you can't arrest me, I'm at home. It's like, watch this, buddy.
Wheel.
Yeah, I saw you behind the wheel. That's another one that people think. Some people, you know, they start to get pulled over and they feel a little uneasy, and they want to pull over in a more well-lit area. We understand that. You know, we've got families.
There's more, the shoulder's too short and it's dangerous. For
We understand that. And if you want to pull to like a parking lot or whatever, that's fine. I would suggest you turn your flashers on and call 911 and be like, hey, my name is Joe Blow. There's a police officer right here at Shorter Avenue trying to pull me over. If you would just let them know I want to pull to a more lighted location. Dispatch is going to let us know that, and you know everything's fine, right? Just let people know that's the main thing. Just like a gun, man. If you'll just let us know, it's not something that's going to cause a problem down the road, right?
It saves a lot of headaches.
It does.
And chest wounds.
Yeah. And tasing.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the main things, man. Just keep your hands where we can see them. Let us know if there's a gun in the car. Don't name drop, man. Don't tell me who you know. Don't tell me, you know, all this other kind of nonsense.
I know my rights.
Yeah. Dude, I tell you what, I pulled over this one guy one time and he's like, I don't have to talk to you. And I said, you're exactly right, you don't, but you do have to provide your license. I know my Chapter 13 rights.
Did you just file bankruptcy?
Yes. I stopped and I was like, your Chapter 13 rights? And he goes, yeah. Okay, buddy. You know, give me your license. That's all I need.
Go ahead and breathe into this because you must be drunk.
Yeah. And so you don't have to say a word. You don't have to answer any questions. I've had people like, you know, hey man, I pulled you over for running that stop sign. You know, any special reason? I don't have to talk. I want to exercise my right main side. Okay, I'm good with that. You know, because that has no effect on the business that we're fixing to do.
Right. You still get a ticket.
Yeah. Well, you know, you may not, depending on everything else, right?
Yeah.
But there's certain things you do have to answer, right? You do have to give me your name. You do have to tell me where you live. You know, most of the time they want a phone number just because if something pops with court or whatever, they want to be able to let you know. It has nothing to do with anything else. So there's administrative questions you have to answer. But if you don't want to answer a question regarding, why you ran that stop sign, or if you ran that stop sign, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Because like you said, a lot of times I've made up my determination whether you're going to get a ticket or not in about that first 30 seconds of our interaction. And it may be so blatant that I made that decision before I ever got in your car, right? It may be so bad that, like that stop sign over there near John Davenport on North 2nd. Dude, people jump that railroad track.
Yes,
They would slow down like,
nobody stops at that.
yeah. And so there may be, I may already have my mind made up that, yeah, you're getting a ticket, right? Or if you're driving aggressively or brake checking people and crap like that, I may already have that decision made. So, but anyway, yeah, just be respectful. Keep.
How do you handle brake checkers?
To me, it's a safety issue, and so yeah, you get pulled over, you get put on the curb, and we're gonna have to talk. A lot of times, a talk works. Like I said, I've never been one that writes a ton of tickets. Sometimes you can get just as much compliance by a good little talk and a written warning. I've always been one that I don't do a lot of verbal warnings, because my training officer I had one time told me, so whatever, no matter what you do, put a piece of paper in their hand, right? It's either a ticket or a warning.
Citation.
Yeah,
or warning.
yeah, it's either a citation or a warning. And it does two things. Number one, it kind of shows that you're being active and kind of puts statistical numbers to what you're doing. But the other thing is, nobody can ever come back and say, oh, well, you're just down here, harassing me or whatever. No.
That's your written proof.
Yeah, there's your written warning that, I pulled you over because you got a brake light out. Or I pulled you over because you got a tag light out. And so, I always try to put a piece of paper in people's hand if I can. And it just kind of helps me. And people, like I said, I've literally had people thank me for giving them a ticket before, which sounds really crazy.
It does.
I've had people argue with me that they deserved a ticket. There's a judge here in town, Superior Court judge. He's retired. He was going through some issues. His wife had passed away. I pulled him over one night for running that same stop sign we just talked about. I pulled him over. He was almost in tears. I realized who he was, and I was like, Your Honor, even though he was retired, I still give him that same respect. Your Honor, you have a good night. He's like, no, So what do you mean? He said, you gonna write me a ticket? I did the crime, you gonna write me a ticket? I said, no, sir, I'm not. Because in the state of Georgia, police officers have what's called officer discretion on misdemeanors, especially on traffic cases. So I've got a choice on whether I decide to write that ticket or not, or I have a choice on whether I decide to take a certain action. And so the only times really that we don't in misdemeanor cases, like family violence cases, if you can identify the primary aggressor, you're supposed to make an arrest. And that's situational a lot. But yeah, I mean, he wanted to argue with me because about writing the ticket. I'm like, Your Honor, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get back in my car. You have a good night. I had another one. He was a retired trooper, and he has a son in law enforcement, and so the red light up there near North Avenue, near North Rome Church of God.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're coming off of North Avenue, like you're coming out of Celanese, you can't turn right on red. So, I was sitting there one day and saw this pickup truck pulling a trailer, turn right on red. I pull him over. I realized who he is when I walk up, and I was like, how you doing, sir? I said, Officer Manning, Rome City Police Department. I pulled you over because you turned right on red, and it's posted that you can't. And his wife's over there in the passenger seat, and she goes, Psh, he should know. He's probably wrote that ticket 1,000 times. And so
He's like, shut up.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, he was, very, it's kind of like, hey, I did it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what, buddy? I said, you have a good day. And he's like, no. I wrote that ticket before. I did it. You write me a ticket. I was like, I said, look, anybody's had to put up with your son, as long as you have, you deserve a break. I
can understand you running a red light.
Yeah. And so anyway, I gave his son a hard time about it for a long time. But, I've had people thank me for writing tickets. I've had people that just bust out in tears when you give them a warning instead of a ticket. And I've had some of the coolest experiences in my life on traffic stops. I've pulled over people. It's like, you know what, sir? I deserved a ticket. You wrote me a warning. Can I pray for you? Dude, just pray for me on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to interact with kids and have fun with them. Just a lot of different stuff. Man, I pulled over this one kid one time. He was 16 years old, blew through a red light. I was like, all right, look, here's the deal, man. I could write you a ticket. Why don't you get over on the side of the road right quick, knock me out 20 push-ups, we'll call it even. You know, he's over on the side of the road, knock me out push-ups. And I'd be like, hey, I'll do them with you. You know, we're over on the side of the road doing push-ups together. But there was an interaction between us that he'll probably never forget.
Right.
You know, because he's probably been told his whole life that cops are out to kill him, cops are out to hurt him or whatever. And because this crazy cop did push-ups with him, you know, he sees a different side.
Yeah.
And so not all police officers are all about just writing tickets and all this other kind of stuff. Again, you know, we talked about on past episodes, you know, the majority of us want to make an impact in people's lives. You know, sometimes that's positive, sometimes that's negative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but a lot of people, they look at it and they're like, well, that cop was a jerk. You know, again, we talked about it before, you never know what he just came off of, you never know what he's dealing with. And so I always say, police officers, it's the only profession that you can't have a bad day at work. You know, there's doctors who have made a career on being great doctors, but not having good bedside manner, of being buttholes.
Sure.
Right? You can't do that as a police officer. You've never heard anybody say, well, he's a great cop, but kind of a jerk, you know, in a good way. So you're not allowed to have bad days. You're not allowed to be, you know, snarky, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is hard.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I'm just snarky by nature.
well, you know, I am too. I'm just, you know, and I'm very no nonsense when it comes to stuff like that, right? We'd had like a string of thefts kind of out in the Garden Lakes area. And so, you know, that little shopping center where Alan Murphy's is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I pulled into the gas station over there, and I kind of pulled over to the left where the ice bin, you know, the ice machine thing is, whatever. And I could see down the back of Alan Murphy's building, and I saw two cars back there, like, you know, parked, kind of like they were talking to each other or whatever. And one of them had his headlights off, and had his running lights on. And I was like, oh, that looks suspicious, right? And so police, we deal with what's called articulable reasonable suspicion. So a reasonable and prudent person would say at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 cars parked behind the business is pretty suspicious.
Right.
So I go over there, I black out, I pull up kind of alongside the building, I get out of my car, and I walk down the dark side of the alley, right? And I get to a position where I'm pretty close, and then I hit them with a flashlight, right? Shine it right in their face. I'm like, hey, Rome City Police Department, what's going on? They're like, well, what do you do? I said, well, I mean, you know.
No, I just asked you.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're behind a closed business, and the guy goes, well, I work here. Even saying that, is it reasonable that a person would be behind the business at 3 o'clock in the morning? No, not at all. And so he kind of got a little agitated with me, and I'm like, hey, buddy, you know, I need your driver's license, or you know, I got to identify you. Why? I said, well, here's the deal, man. I don't know if you work here or not. Well, I told you that. Okay, do you know how many people lie to us on a regular basis? Yeah. These ain't my pants.
All
right?
day.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You know, criminals lie. I said, so I don't know if you work here or not. So I need your driver's license, your identification. And, you know, that way if something comes up, now I know who my first suspect's going to be. Right. And so he filed a complaint on me and said that I was rude. So my captain at the time reviewed my video, and he called the guy back. He said, look, he was not rude. He said, yes, he was very no nonsense, but he's an officer by himself behind a dark business with 2 subjects, you know, in an area where we've had recent thefts. He's probably going to be heightened on his vigilance scale a little bit until he kind of figures out what's going on. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Police officers get on the scene and they might be barking orders, they might be amped up, but we have to figure out what's going on before we can kind of calm down and relax a little bit.
And you can't relax too soon, because that's a life and death situation.
That's right, because then things go sideways. And so that was a complaint that he filed on me, saying that I was rude. And, you know, and I wasn't rude. I was just very no nonsense, and I wasn't, you know.
Did he work there?
Huh? Yeah, he worked there. Yeah, he worked there, and he worked there after hours.
Okay.
But I mean, nobody knows that.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah. And so, articulable reasonable suspicion means what a person, you know, a reasonable person would believe a crime could be occurring. So let's say it's 3 o'clock in the morning downtown. All the bars have let out. And I used to always like cruising behind the businesses downtown, checking buildings, stuff like that. You find some really cool stuff, you know, people passed out drunk, people doing drugs or whatever. And if you pull out from behind a closed business at 3 o'clock in the morning, a reasonable person would say that's suspicious, right? Or if you walk out behind a building at 3 o'clock in the morning, yeah, you're probably going to get stopped and talked to. Now in Rome, in the city of Rome, if you're just walking down the street, Is that suspicious? Not at all.
Not necessarily.
No, not necessarily. Because people walk everywhere in the city. Not everybody has cars. So that's not really suspicious. But if you're coming out from behind a closed business, yeah, especially one that's been burglarized lately or whatever.
Or in that vicinity.
Yeah. And so if a police officer has what's called articulable reasonable suspicion, we call it ARS, you can be stopped for what's called a brief investigation stop. You can be detained. You can be placed in cuffs. And if you don't comply, there can be force used on you, right? So if you're walking out from behind a closed business and say, hey buddy, stop a second, and you're like, screw you, you take off running and I gotta chase you, you're gonna get tackled, you're gonna get put in handcuffs. Whether you did anything wrong or not, because at that point, I have a reasonable belief that you could have done something wrong. So I don't have to have what's called probable cause to make an arrest. Mm-hmm. I just have to have a reasonable suspicion that something's going on to detain you and stop you. Now, and we had this happen, like, it's been a while ago, but I had an armed robbery, all right? Suspects left in a black Dodge Charger with tinted windows. Well, about 2 streets over, I see a black Dodge Charger with tinted windows. I light it up, get the people out of the car, put them in cuffs, detain them, start, figuring out what the heck's going on. It wound up not being them, mm-hmm. right? So take them out of cuffs, pat them on the back, say, look, I'm really sorry, but this is the information I had. This is why I stopped you. The average citizen understands that. The average citizen that lives in that subdivision we were in does not want armed robber suspects, driving through their neighborhood, right, and possibly hurting somebody else. And so what officers use to kind of decide on force is what's called Graham versus Connor was a Supreme Court case. And it has a 4-prong test. So the parts of the test are the severity of the crime, right? So possible armed robbery, you're thinking gun, knife, bazooka, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? The arm is the suspect resisting? Does the suspect pose an immediate flight risk? And is the suspect a danger to the community? So if we're looking at an armed robbery suspect in a car, and I get them out of the car, of that 4-prong test, right? Possessive weapon, possibly,
Check.
right? Possibly. Danger to the public, possibly. Severity of the crime, yeah, right? So the only thing I don't have right now is resistive, right? So if those 3 things are checked off, and you decide you don't want to go in cuffs and you want to fight, yeah, you're gonna take a ride. You're gonna get slammed on the ground or whatever. Whereas all you had to do is comply. I get you cleared out. We know that it's not you, and I send you on your way, right? And thank you for being a good citizen. And that's where people get hemmed up because they think, well, I don't have to because I didn't do anything wrong. Well, I understand that, but we don't know that, right? We don't know who you are. We don't know where you've been or anything like that. Until we can get that cleared up, you're probably going to be put in cuffs. And most people, like I said, once you explain it to them, most people are okay.
Yeah.
The problem that happens a lot of times is a lot of officers don't know how to explain that, right? It's like, you're going to go in cuffs because I told you to, mm-hmm. right? And then they never explain why they detained that person in the first place.
There's a lot of confusion when the right conversation is not had.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of confusion, and there's heightened awareness. Mm-hmm. There's like tension.
Yeah.
So I mean, every single time, it has a chance to be a powder keg.
Mm-hmm.
For real.
And so people just need to understand that 9 times out of 10, and I can't say for other cities like Chicago or whatever, but 9 times out of 10, every officer I've ever dealt with, they're just trying to do the right thing. They're trying to help their community. So they're not picking on you because you're a certain race. They're not picking on you because of this, because of that. They're just trying to do the right thing and protect their community. And so, it's like people videoing cops, right? It's not illegal to video cops at all.
Everybody seems to think that's the right thing to do these days.
And you know what, dude? I have no problem with it because if you're not doing the wrong thing, you don't have anything to worry about as long as
you're not being protagonist or antagonist.
Well, number one, as long as the whole video comes out and you don't selectively pick parts.
You edit it.
Yes.
To make the situation different.
Yes. And you don't come into a distance that makes that officer divide his attention or puts that officer at risk.
Right.
I've had a traffic stop. I pulled a guy over on East First, kind of, East First Street that runs parallel to Broad Street. Pulled him over. He blew through a red light, never even slowed down, man. So I just wanted to make sure he wasn't drunk. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. There was no other traffic on the road, but I wanted to make sure he wasn't intoxicated. So I blew at him because I was sitting right there watching the back lot of Mellow Mushroom, looking for DUIs. Right. And I blew at him. He pulls over. He's like, man, I know why you pulled me over. He said, I just wasn't paying attention. I'm really sorry. All right, man, no problem. I start to ID him. I look, and there's a guy who walks up behind me, and he's probably like from me to you. He's probably from me to you, videoing. And he goes, sir, do you feel like you were illegally detained? And I was like, hey, dude, back up. And he's like, well, you can't stop me from videoing. And I said, I'm not. But you're going to have to back up to a safe distance that is safe for you and for me. And so that's
6 feet.
Yeah, you need to be across the street out of the roadway, because if you stand in the middle of the roadway, then you're obstructing traffic. So now you're committing a crime, right? So you need to step away and give us some space. I don't care if you videotape me, right? As long as you show the whole video, and as long as you kind of give me some space to do my job. Certain departments, they get more wound up about me, about people using foul language, than they do about you dragging somebody out the little vent window of the car,
Or that inch that they cracked the window
at. Yeah. And so, or busting their window out because they don't want to comply. Some people in this world just don't understand. When I say, sir, I'm gonna need you to please sit down. They just look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. Yeah. And until you're like, sir, sit your on the ground, then they're like, oh, okay. They sit down. Yeah. So sometimes that kind of creeps in, right? And I've gotten in trouble for telling people stuff before.
I can only imagine if I was a policeman, my mouth is like.
Yeah. And I try not to. I try to stay professional, and I try to try not
to.
Yeah. Yeah, especially the way some departments are now. But there's times when people just don't understand. Yeah. Right. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with you videoing the police. You have that right, but you do not have the right to stick that video in their face, to stick that video at somebody, and even that night, huh?
Or exploit somebody with it later.
Yeah, and we'll go over that in a second. Yeah. But even that guy that night that I pulled over, he was like, officer, I don't know those people. I don't know why they're acting this way. He's like, but I have nothing to do with it. Yeah. He was distancing himself because he didn't want me to think that he had anything to do with that crap. And so, and the guy finally backed off because I look, if you don't back off, you're going to jail. And so finally I looked back at the guy, I said, look, don't run no more red lights, get out of here. And I sent him on his way, and then I dealt with that guy. Because, he was dividing my attention, which was putting me at a safety risk, right? And so, yeah, if you're going to video the police, that's fine. We don't care because we're videoing too.
It's like Superman don't have to use bad words to get his point across. No, but he's got X-ray vision and laser. He'll melt your ass to the concrete.
Yeah. Or he can go and shoot you across the room. Right. And it's And so, but yeah, I just people like that kind of drum up controversy and try to drum up issues with police officers. That we have enough issues going on in this country as it is, right? Without you trying to drum up some stuff. And so,
let's talk about. There's an incident that happened here. There's a couple of guys. I don't even want to give them too much. I didn't research their names or what their YouTube channel was because I'm not trying to promote any of their horse shit that they did. But they came to town. They're doing a diving thing around the bridge. Yeah,
they were diving around the bridge up there at the soccer field.
So they have a YouTube channel and they find stuff and post it and they get. Here's the deal. You're an influencer, which that's the same thing as being an influencer. The more likes you get, the more times people watch your videos, things like that, you earn revenue from it, okay? Yeah. When you take that specific thing that you do to make money, okay, and you manipulate a situation with a police officer just because they're under the microscope. Everybody's watching everything the police does. They want to find something rotten that they can film and they can put out there for it to go viral. Yeah. So they can start getting revenue. Yeah.
Okay. And they're 9 times out of 10 they're not putting out the whole video. I mean, we watched that video. You can tell where it's been edited.
I mean, I edit our YouTube, not a whole lot, but I mean. that whole video was edited.
Yeah.
So the only thing they showed in the video was the initial contact with the officer, and then the officer trying to do his best to appease them on the situation, because the situation was not as dire, or it was, to me, it was exaggerated.
Yeah.
It was over exaggerated, over embellished.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the officer starts trying to work with these guys to give them something that will satisfy them, as far as why they wasted his time to call him out there on some grave marker that they found, then they started giving him backlash about trying to give them their information and their address and things like that. And then they became, I guess, obstruction?
Not really.
On the
It's just,
very gray line there.
Yeah, it more along the lines of just being a butt. Man.
Yeah.
You know, and granted, the video portions they showed, right? The officer showed up, and it was a Rome City police sergeant. You can find the video if you want to.
Yeah.
I work with a guy. He's been with the department 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was a field training officer, a detective. He's been on SWAT. He's a sergeant. I work for him. He's great to work for. Super good guy. Knows the law. But every portion of the video they showed put him in a bad light.
Yeah.
Now,
and they snipped out their. I'm sure they were. We'll use the word snarky again.
Yeah.
They were being snarky towards him, which got him a little agitated, because not even 2 years ago, that same exact location, there was 2 dead women there.
Yeah. Somebody got their head blown off.
2 women got executed.
Yeah.
Execution style.
And tossed in the water.
Tossed in the water.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're gonna call over here for some bullshit, and then you're gonna get this officer here to try to shed a bad light on this guy to make him look bad, so you can get more views on YouTube.
And what it was they had found, they said a grave marker, but you know, it was like the plate that they put over a grave marker, and it find out that it was like a display or something. How it wound up over there, I'll never know. But it wasn't even the grave marker; it was just that plate that kind of sits on the stone, I guess you'd say. Because if it had been the gravestone, them 2 guys would have never got it out of the water. No. So the officer comes up and he's like, "Hey guys, you know, what can I do for you?" And like, "Well, we found this grave marker." And according to the video, he was a little snarky with his response, right? But again, you know, we talked about it before. Number one, you don't know what's going on, right? You don't know what's happened throughout the night. You don't know the situation. And I have always been one that I try not to Monday morning quarterback police officers,
right?
Because I don't know the situation. I wasn't there. I wasn't in that time. So again, if you just watch the snippets of the video, he was a little snarky, but they're wanting him to basically do a criminal investigation.
Yeah.
You know, this thing could be stolen, and again, like you said, they kind of embellished it a little bit.
They're baiting him.
Yeah,
They're baiting him.
And so it's like. And so he's like, okay, you know, I'll do a report for you. You know, we'll turn it in. So he goes to get their information. He's like, well, we don't want to give it to you. Well, now it's a criminal investigation, right? And you're wanting to turn over a piece of property. So I have to know who turned it in.
Sure.
And he even tells them, well, how do I know you didn't steal it?
Sure.
And they're like, well, they got all offended, right?
Yeah, they did.
But guess what? We've already established that people lie to the police. You know. How do we know that you didn't go steal that and then try to cover your tracks? You just chunk it in the water. Oh, now I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to turn it in, right? So it was very reasonable for him to ask for their identification.
Sure.
You know,
I think it was reasonable for him to be a little agitated with him.
I do too.
I'm not even a police officer.
Yeah, I do too. And so you know, and like I said, he pretty much made some comments and was totally right that. I need to identify who you are because you want to turn this in, right? Now it's a criminal investigation. And so I need to kind of know what's going on. And, you know, I don't need your social, right? I don't need
just all the way to get back in touch with you.
It's exactly right.
In case this is a criminal evidence.
Yeah,
you know,
and so and they finally go, well, I'll give you my name and phone number. And he's like, okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. At least I have a way to get back in touch with you. Another thing that he could have done, which is what I usually do too, if I come up to a scene like that, and they're in a vehicle or there's a vehicle sitting right there, I'm gonna get that tag out. Because what you don't know is You don't know if somebody is calling you away down there to ambush you.
Sure.
Right? So when
that is not a safe area.
No, you're down there in the dark in the boat
around the river.
Yeah. You know, and it's just you and that person, or those two people. So I'm gonna give out the tag number so at least dispatch knows that if something happens to me,
this is who we're looking for.
This is the vehicle I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give out that information. So, you know, there's ways to identify who that person is and more information about them if they wanna act that way. But you know, to me, everything he did was not unreasonable.
I don't think for 1 second that he was unreasonable in the way he handled that situation.
And he got a little agitated, but
Sure.
you know what? When people keep doing that kind of stuff and seems like they're trying to bait you, you're gonna get agitated.
Sure.
And that's what we talked about before. Police work is the only job that you're not allowed to have a bad day.
Right.
You know? So let's say you work in a factory and you and your wife are fighting and you come into work and you're pissy. Well, what's wrong with Bill? I don't know. Him and his wife are fighting again. He's just pissy.
Yeah.
Right? Cops can't be that way. You can't be pissy because then you offend somebody. You know, I've always told people, look, I'm an equal opportunity offender. If you're offended real easy, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna offend you. But you know, you don't know. You don't know if an officer has a brand new kid and works night shift and he's only had like 2 hours sleep, or he worked all night long and he's got to get up and go to court because they don't try to plan court around his sleep schedule.
Right.
So yeah, he might be a little antsy, or he may be a little hungry because, you know, I mean, we all get hungry and we get a little hangry.
Yeah.
You don't know that situation. Just like I don't know it. Like if I pull somebody over and they're like upset and crying, I don't know why. I'm going to try to find out why because I want to help them. But it seems like people just want to bait cops and get them in a bad light in a bad situation. And then, and like I said, either the video has been manipulated or you know, edited, or they just out and out lie.
Right.
We had a situation. I got dispatched to an armed robbery at one of our illustrious hotels on Martha Berry.
Oh.
The Economy right there.
Fancy.
Yeah.
What's the
Economy.
continental breakfast?
Yeah, well, it's the one that sits right there behind the Chinese restaurant there on Martha Berry.
Yeah, I know what you're
So
saying.
basically, a guy comes walks through the parking lot, pulls a gun on another guy, sticks it in his face, give me all your stuff. Right. So the robber takes off running toward Martha Berry, kind of at an angle, right, kind of like he's going a little south. So we get there. We start talking to the guy. Hey, do you know who this guy is? He's like, I don't know his real name, but I know his nickname. Okay, what's his nickname? His nickname's Tiny, whatever. I don't know, make it up. And he hangs out with this hooker named Betty Sue, right? So I had dispatch run Betty Sue because I know her. And they're like, well, you know, the last information we have about her, she was staying at the Sunrise Hotel and she OD'd yesterday on heroin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they were in room like 125 or whatever. So, and that's the direction the guy ran. He ran toward that hotel. So this guy hangs out with her. The last contact anybody's had with her is at this hotel, at this room. So a reasonable person would go, let me go check that place, right? So Deputy Chris Snyder, he works for the Floyd County Sheriff's Office. He was actually working a side job on Broad Street and heard the call come out. And he's one of my SWAT guys. He's one of my ride or dies, man. He's one of those kind of guys that I always say I'd take on hell with a water pistol with him, man. And so usually if there was nonsense to be had, we were together.
Yeah.
And so he hears this call. So he leaves his side job to come back me up. And so we go over to the Sunrise Hotel. The supervisor for that shift that night was Sergeant Burns. He went with us. So when we get to the hotel room, the blinds or the curtains covering. So he goes to the front door and he's got his gun out because it's an armed robbery suspect, right? Yeah. So he's got his gun out, but it's in what we call stool position. And basically it's in tight up against his body and it's pointing straight down. But if he needs it, it's there, right? Sergeant Burns is behind him and he's got his gun out, but it's tucked by his leg. I'm on the other side of the window. You know, they have those big glass windows by the front door and that window where the air conditioning unit is, right? Yeah. So I'm on the other side of it, looking in through the back side of the curtain so that I can see the guy when he comes to the door and let them know, hey, he's got a gun or whatever. Yeah. So knock on the door, they identify themselves, he comes to the door, I'm like, hey, he doesn't have anything in his hands, he's good. So the guy opens the door. They holster their weapon, right? Or he may have kept his out, I can't remember. But anyway, it's still pointing to the ground. We tell him while we're there, he's like, well, me and my girlfriend just moved into this apartment, this hotel room today. We said, okay, this is why we're here. We're looking for this guy. do you mind if we just come through, clear right quick, make sure he's not in here? We're not looking for anything else. You know, if you got some weed hanging around, we don't give a crap. We're here looking for him.
Right.
And the guy's like, yeah, man, come on in. So we go through, we clear it right quick, check the bathroom around the other side of the bed, make sure he's not in there. As we start to leave, man, I apologize to him because it's after midnight probably. I'm like, look, man, I'm sorry to bother you. I really appreciate your cooperation. We're just trying to find this guy. He held a guy at the gunpoint. He's like, oh yeah, man, I'm just glad to help. And I apologize probably 3 or 4 times before we walk out the door. So we're in the parking lot kind of talking about the case. And he comes out and he's like, hey, I want to talk to your supervisor. So that's him right there. And so he kind of got us a little attitude about us, you know, said that we kind of harassed him or whatever. And I thought, look, you know, we told you why we were there.
You were okay with it a second ago.
Yeah, and we apologize for bothering you. You know, appreciate your cooperation and everything. He's like, well, I just kind of felt like it just wasn't handled right. It's like, okay, you know, that's fine.
That should be.
Yeah. So a couple of days later, I get a phone call, and he's filed a formal complaint.
Oh wow.
For excessive force.
Oh, you animal.
And he specifically named me and Deputy Snyder in the complaint, saying that we put our guns in his face.
Oh.
Okay. So first thing, Snyder's gun was pointed toward the floor. I didn't have my gun out. I'm on the other side of the window. If I had my gun pointed toward him, I would have been covering off on my own guys.
Yeah, you would have been having your gun pointed in their direction.
At my guys, yeah. Right? And that's not going to happen. And so he actually made a formal complaint, wrote it out and everything. Okay. So we didn't have body cams at the time. Snyder had been working a side job. He didn't have his body cam. My car wasn't pointing in the right direction to get video footage or anything. So he was filing complaints saying that we stuck our guns in his face. And so they were doing an investigation on us. Luckily, the hotel had video.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. And so the video shows a totally different story, right? So if somebody files a complaint, that's one thing. If they file a false complaint, that's another.
That's a criminal offense.
If you write it out and sign it, now I have false writing, which is a felony.
Oh my God. Well, good for him.
But guess what? Rome PD did nothing.
Are you serious?
They did not pursue charges at all.
No way.
And the reason being is they said, because they're a CALEA recognized organization. CALEA is this large law enforcement certification program. And they did not pursue charges because they said that they wanted the public to feel free to file a complaint. Well, guess what? If I do something wrong and you don't file a complaint on me, that's one thing. But filing a false complaint
to get you potentially fired.
Not just fired, but I could go to prison for that, for violation of oath of office, for excessive force. I could go to prison for 5 years for that.
Yeah.
And get fired, and my name get drugged through their mud.
And you not get another job in law enforcement.
Not at all, because then my post certification's screwed up, and I can't get a job in law enforcement. All because this guy wanted to lie. And so because when I asked the investigator about it, who's with what's called OPS, Officer of Professional Standards, he's like, well, we watched the video, and I let him watch the video. Well, then he decided that maybe his recollection wasn't exactly that.
And they should have put him in handcuffs.
Exactly right. Yeah, because my whole thing is, if you go after one of my guys and you lie about them, we got problems.
Sure.
You're going to jail.
Yeah.
Because if one of my guys breaks the law,
then he's going to go to jail.
He's going to go to jail.
Believe me, he's going
That's
to
just the way it is.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
going to be on Fox News.
Yes, and so they did not have my back in that situation.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, and then you look at this situation with the sergeant from Rome, and they didn't have his back either.
Yeah, because they posted a statement.
Yeah, man. Hold on, I'll read that statement to you. They did like a media release or whatever, man.
They threw his ass under the bus.
They did.
And here's another thing that we go back to saying things like, "Don't say this to a police officer." Don't go. Well, my lawyer said.
Yeah.
Probably one of the top few sentences that you don't use.
Yeah, exactly. No, dude. So this is kind of the press release, I guess, that Rome PD put out. And like I said, man, I worked at Rome for 9 years. There's a lot of good people there. I have some issues with some other people, but
that's with every job.
Yeah, this is their
my banking job. Yeah, and my manager.
This is their public statement. So on September 7th, 2021, a YouTube video was shared anonymously with Rome PD showing a confrontation between Sergeant and 2 divers. Divers had located in the Etowah River what appeared to be a grave marker headstone. They called 911 to turn it over. Sergeant responded to the call. The released YouTube video shows him becoming agitated with the divers when they refused to provide their names for an incident report. Although the video was noticeably edited, The sergeant allowed himself to be confrontational with the two divers. Okay, it is the policy of the Rome PD to treat citizens with respect and civility. The Rome PD has reviewed the YouTube videos and determined that the sergeant acted in an unprofessional manner and brought discredit to the Rome PD. The matter has been addressed administratively with disciplinary action taken and a part of his permanent file. Then they try to kind of cover things over. They're like, well, the sergeant, 17-year veteran of the department, has an excellent service record. Acknowledges he should have handled it differently. Stated that he's learned from this mistake, grown from it, and will use this to become a better public servant. The grade marker was determined to be a display model cast by Star Granite Company. The model could have been sent to any vendor in the country for display purposes. On behalf of all members of the Rome Police Department, we offer an apology to the community at large. We failed to represent ourselves in a proper manner at this instance. We pride ourselves in our service to the community and hold ourselves to a high standard. We also regret that the people across our community who have had nothing to do with this incident have been on the receiving end of harsh criticism and vulgar language by individuals who have chosen to remain anonymous.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Extremely disappointing, and the way they handle that, because
I watched that same video, and I honestly don't feel like the way he responded to them was inappropriate.
I don't think either. He got a little agitated, but again, you don't know the section of the video that was edited out.
Right. You don't know what was said, how they were baiting him, and then they cleared all that up. I mean, you made an assumption, and you made a decision, and you threw this officer under the bus off of a third of what happened.
Yeah.
That you can see for a fact.
And it's just like my situation. The guy made a false claim, a false complaint. You know, I don't know if he was just trying to get me in trouble or if he was trying to get a check or whatever. And then once you prove that it's not true, then you do nothing about it because you don't want to offend anybody else, or you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, or you don't want to make it where people feel like they can't make a complaint. Guess what? If people feel like they make a complaint, if they feel like they have a complaint, they're going to make it.
Sure.
Right? They're not going to look at it and go, oh, well, if I make a complaint, they're going to try to charge me. Well, if you make a false complaint and it's totally false,
you should be.
Then you should be charged. You should go to jail, right? Because guess what? If I get caught lying, my career's over.
Yeah, and you're going to jail.
It's exactly right.
And your face is going to be plastered all over every social media, news website, news channel.
Yeah. Officer sticks his gun in man's face for no reason. And that's the way the news media wants to play it. Is they want to make us look worse than we are. Right. And when you have superiors that don't back you and don't stand up for you,
gives you a weak infrastructure.
It gives you a weak infrastructure, but it also makes me believe and makes me think as an officer, you're not going to have my back if crap does hit the fan.
Something really does go down.
If you won't stand up for me because a guy lied about me, what makes me think that you're going to have my back if I have to shoot somebody? Right. That's one cool thing I can say about where I'm at right now. I know they got my back. I know that if things hit the fan, they're going to be there.
That means a lot.
It does. It means a whole lot to me.
Because you're not afraid to do your job, which will lead it, could lead to you getting shot.
Yeah. And I don't have to worry about them not standing behind me and me going to prison and not seeing my kids and things like that. So, and people wonder why there's been a mass exodus in the law enforcement community. Why people look at how many officers Atlanta lost after that shooting with that guy in the Wendy's drive-thru parking lot. That officer did everything right, dude. That night at the Sunrise Inn, we did everything right, but yet he's trying to persecute us for something we didn't even do, and nobody did anything about it. That's where I have a problem.
You give criminals too much freedom when you start doing that.
And I've always been one. I was not a supervisor when I worked here, but I was a leader on my shift. I still have conversations. I still get phone calls from people that were on my shift, like, "Hey, this is what I got. How should I handle this?" Right? I still get those phone calls because I was a leader to my people, and I will stand up for my people. Like, I might not be a supervisor, but by gosh, you come after one of mine, we're gonna have problems.
Right.
And so, and some departments don't want that. They want a monkey. They want somebody who just does what they're told. And I'm sorry, that's just not that's not me.
Right.
And so, that's why I'm glad where I'm at. like I said, I love a lot of people at Rome. I've still got some really good friends there. But how they handled that situation with Sergeant, I'm not really cool with it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people. I even had a defense attorney friend of mine. He's like, look, dude, if that was me, yeah, I'd already walked out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm grateful that I'm with some guys that
They
will
just,
have my back.
well, I mean, they want the video shows them to be a bad person.
Yeah.
And they go on and make the video worse with their little comment sections.
Oh,
And
yeah.
things like that. Comment on what you think.
Yeah.
So
If you think he did wrong, comment.
They put this guy in a terrible light, and then his own organization just basically shits on him, and has these YouTubers back during the whole situation.
Yeah.
Instead of coming to the aid of their officer.
Okay, so if you're going to have a press release that says that, why do you not have the full video?
Yes.
Right?
Have the whole video.
Yeah, if you want to file a complaint on these officers or whatever, then you need to release the full video, and then let's put the full video.
Let's
out.
listen to everything they said to him.
That's exactly
to
right.
get him to where he got.
And that's just like a lot of these police officer involved shootings. You only get a little snippet of what
You don't
happened.
get the beginning.
You don't get the whole thing that happened. Right?
You don't get the video from across the street from the gas station that's watching this guy punch a woman in the car,
or even the Wendy's video. All it's going to show is them shooting a guy in the back.
Yeah.
Well, what happened before that?
Yeah.
Right. What happened when he was fighting with them and took their taser and pointed his taser, pointed the police officer's taser at him? Right. What about that?
Yeah.
Oh, we ain't gonna show that because I mean that makes the cop look good.
Yeah, that makes it look like he did his job.
Yeah, the right way.
The right way.
Yeah, and make sure that he went home safe to his family, and the other officer went home safe to his family. So yeah, if you're gonna do crap like that, then get the whole video and put that out there for people to watch and comment on. Right? Don't put that little short video on that's been totally edited, and let them comment on it. Yeah. Oh, that's just another cop who's a jerk. Well, let's see the whole thing. Let's see
now what got in there. Let's see what got in there.
Exactly. And so, it's the same way with, traffic stops and things like that. Sometimes traffic stops go sideways, Majority of the time, if people act like they got some sense and they comply, there's no problem.
Everybody goes on about their business.
That's exactly right. And if you're respectful and kind, you might get away with a warning and not even get a ticket, right? But if you're a jerk, and you want to drop names and stuff like that, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get a ticket.
Sure.
And then you're going to drive off pissed because some police give you a ticket. And it has, you don't want to.
Or you're going to take a picture of your side view mirror with the police in your, in the video camera with the lights on in the back.
Yeah.
Posting it going, this jerk
gave me a ticket.
Thanks a lot. I was late for work.
Yeah. Well, and why were you late for work? Right.
Because I stayed up all night.
Yeah.
I didn't get up on time.
Again, man, we talked about it before, and I told a lady the other night, last night at work, I said, I've learned that 99% of stuff we deal with in law, and even 99% of the problems in the world today, revolve around people being selfish. It's like, hey, you got some $300 Jordans, and I want them, so I'm gonna take them. Yeah, Or like that lady in Florida where her son broke into a man's house and the man shot him. And the lady was like, "Well,
he didn't have to kill him.
Well, how does he expect my boy to get some money?
Yeah.
Go get a job. Yeah. But it all goes around selfishness. Hey, I want to sleep 30 minutes later, so now I got to speed to work, right? Or I don't want to pay a $30 taxi cab fee, so I'm gonna get my car on Broad Street and I'm gonna drive drunk.
I'm gonna crash into somebody and kill them.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, it just revolves around selfishness, man. People wanting what they want. It doesn't matter what nobody else wants.
Right.
And that whole thing goes back to all these videos of making people look bad and everything else. So everybody talks about, cops being rude or whatever. Let me tell you something. In 9 years, and I love firefighters. I really do. They do a hard job. A lot of them have some really good medical training. I've heard more firefighters cuss people out about being in their way or whatever, pulling up, running over their hose and stuff like that. I've seen more firefighters cuss people out than I have cops, but you never hear about that.
Yeah,
You've never heard of a firefighter. Yeah, you never heard of a firefighter cussing somebody.
I would.
Well, I mean, you run over a 2-inch water line. I mean, yeah, that's some problems.
Yeah.
Or I've seen one time in my career where somebody's parked in the way beside a fire hydrant, and they busted out their dang window to get the...
And put it in neutral and roll it out of the way.
Yeah. Or they busted out the window on both sides, just run the hose right through their car.
That's hilarious.
You know, but you don't hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear about all these other public service workers like postman and stuff like that. You know, going off or cussing you out or whatever. You just hear when the police uses some hurtful language and hurts your feelings. Yeah, exactly.
Because being stupid.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'll never forget, man. One of our guys pulled this dude over, and he stops right in the middle of the road, and the officer walks up, and he's like, "Hey, why you gotta be a dumbass and park in the middle of the road?" And the guy files a complaint, you know, and wants to see the supervisor. The supervisor comes over, and she's like, "Hey, you need to apologize." He's like, "Okay." So he walks up there, and he goes, "I'm sorry, you're a dumbass," and went and got in the car. Yeah, but it's like. And so sometimes people do the dumbest stuff. I tell everybody, you know, I've got that front row seat to the greatest show on earth.
Yeah, you do.
And what I wish that I had started writing down stories when I got in this profession.
Yeah.
Because you can't make stuff up, man. You really can't. I mean, traffic stops, man. I had a guy one time, and I actually saw this on an episode of Cops after it happened to me, and because I thought that ain't never happen again, and I saw it on Cops. But I pulled this guy over, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you know, this is why I pulled you over. Any marijuana in the car?" "No, man, ain't no marijuana. I don't smoke weed." "Really? Your car smells like weed." "Oh, I got buddies that were in the car and they were smoking earlier." So, you know, okay, that could happen, right? And I said, "Well, do me a favor, step on out of the car." I said, "Because based off of the smell of marijuana, I'm gonna search your car." "Okay, that's fine. Ain't no marijuana in the car." "All right, cool." So he steps out of the car. We get back to the back of the car and we're talking. And I said, "You sure you don't have any marijuana on you whatsoever?" He's like, "No, man, I don't smoke." "Never smoked?" "No, I ain't never smoked in my life." "Okay. So no marijuana on your person?" "No." "Sure, yeah." "Why is there a rolled joint behind your ear?"
Oh my
Dude,
God.
he had a dude like tucked behind his ear like a rolled cigarette, and it was marijuana. And I was like, "Really, dude?"
What do you say?
He's like, "Oh, I forgot."
I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
I forgot about that.
That's my friend.
Yeah. Well,
I thought it was a Q-tip.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tampon I'm taking to my wife.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. That's why I'm speeding.
But I mean, and I've had people, you know, you find dope in their pants. "Oh, these ain't my pants. These are my brother's pants."
I just put them on.
Yeah, why are you wearing your brother's pants? Right? So yeah, man, it's. I wished I had wrote all these stories down because I'm one that I tell people, like when I teach in the police academy, I will tell you my horror stories as much as I'll tell you my war stories.
Yeah.
The stupid stuff I've done, you know, that I get back in the car and I'm like, "Oh, it's the dumbest thing ever." Right? I'm surprised I survived. I will tell those stories just as much as I tell, you know, really cool stories.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, but yeah, hopefully our traffic stop information will help somebody
Yeah,
do the
man,
right
I
thing,
hope so.
man.
I mean, it's right there. It's crystal clear. It's common sense. I don't know why
Yeah.
people can't abide by the simple things to
You know,
make their lives.
keep your hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Don't be a knucklehead and just barely roll your window down. Now, granted, like I said, that's not illegal.
Yeah. I mean.
But in that instance, the officer, as long as he don't get riled up, he's gonna be like, "Oh, just step out of the car."
Mhm.
And then if you don't comply, then yeah,
Then he's got every right. Yeah.
You got charges.
Yeah.
But just be smart, man. And if whether you agree with the charge or not, take it to court.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, "You know what, I didn't do that." Again, the side of the road is not the time to argue about that.
No.
The time to argue about that is in a court of law, which is one of the coolest things about being an American. You know, unlike other
You
countries.
get your quote unquote day in court.
Yeah, exactly right. Unlike other countries where it's like, "Hey, the government said it, and that's the way
And
it
they beat the
is."
shit out of you with a stick.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to argue, whereas in the United States, you know, you can go to court. You can say, "Hey, I don't believe this happened." Funny story, and I'll be done. I promise.
You're good.
I had so you know where Mathis Drive and Longmeadow is in Garden Lakes, right?
Yes.
You got that little T intersection right there. So I'm working. It's in night, you know, I've always worked night shift in the dark. I guess I'm a vampire. But this car comes up the stop sign and they're across from me, right? She never slowed down. She just went right through it. So I bust a U-turn. I pulled her over. You know, "Ma'am, the reason I pulled you over is you're out." She said, "No, I stopped that stop sign." I said, "No, ma'am, I was sitting right there."
Yeah.
She's like, "No, I stopped that stop sign. I live over here and I stop for that stop sign every day." It's like, "Well, you didn't today, you know." So I wrote her a ticket. So she comes to court. So when she comes to court, she has a very professionally drawn sketch at that intersection that's been drawn with Crayola markers.
She thought she was on Judge Judy.
She did, dude. And so she drew it out. She drew her car and how she stopped, and so, which showed nothing, honestly. And so they were like, well, let's watch the video. Because the way Rome's camera system in their car works is constantly recording, right?
Yeah.
But the moment I turn on my blue lights, or the moment I hit the record button on my body pack, it goes back 30 seconds, and that's when the video starts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's really neat that if you're watching a stop sign and you see somebody run it, you hit record, and it has the violation on video.
So it's already been kind of processed.
Yes. And so that's what happened. So anyway, it shows, me pull up the stop sign and stop, and it shows her just blitz right on through it. And so the judge stops the video, and he says, anything to say? And she's like, yeah, you see, I stopped for that stop sign. And literally the judge looks at her and he goes, are you drunk? And she was high on pills that day.
No
in
way.
court.
I believe it.
Dude.
It makes more sense.
But I mean, she pulled up this and never even slowed down this own video. And she's like, see, I stopped for that stop sign. And it's like,
No, man.
what?
That was the police car stop.
Yeah,
Not you.
that ain't you.
Idiot.
Right? That's not your video footage.
God.
So, but yeah, I mean, you like I said,
Unreal.
you get all kinds.
Yeah.
But hopefully it'll kind of help some people. And that's kind of, we talk about doing this like a couple times a month. That's one thing I want to do is kind of try to help educate people.
Yeah,
kind of
man,
what's going on and how to, I guess, to see more of the human side of police and not what you see on news, not what you see on.
Not what you're being force fed.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Most police departments, I know Rome always did, they do a ride-along program.
Yeah.
You want to see what it's like? Come hop in a car.
in the car.
Because things will change.
Yeah.
Right? I've had several people that got in the car and like, I did not expect Rome to be like this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they just don't expect Rome to have
Small
the crime
town
happen.
Rome.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you what, since I've been in Walker County, I've seen some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that comes out of Chattanooga.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do. It's like they get involved in the shooting Chattanooga and they run to Rossville.
Yeah.
They come across the line. And so yeah, I've seen some really, really crazy stuff up there in just a few short months I've been there. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I can't think of any other career I'd rather do. So.
Well, we're going to get into some of those crazy stories up there in Northwest Georgia.
That's it, man. Yeah.
Man, thank you so much for coming in, and as always, be safe.
That's right, man.
And we'll see you.
The word for the day is comply.
Comply.